In this video, I'm going to give you my review of the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2 tennis court shoe. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Brody Taylor. I've worked in a tennis retail store for the past 7+ years, so I got to see the differences and just see the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 1s. And now that the 2s are out, there's a big difference that Mizuno changed with the shoe that I think you're going to need to pay attention to if you actually want to consider getting the shoe for yourself. So the big things about the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2 is that this is the most cushioned and the most supportive tennis shoe that Mizuno does make. That didn't change. That is still the same from the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 1. This is their heaviest shoe, so sometimes people feel that it can be a little bit clunky. But I personally, when I had it on my feet, even though I do tend to prefer lighter weight shoes like the, say, Nike Vapor 12 or just the Mizuno Wave Exceed Tour 6, the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2 was actually a shoe that I didn't really have a problem with as soon as I got onto the court. There was a little bit of an adjustment period, but overall, there wasn't really anything that slowed me down. But this shoe just kept me nice, cushioned, and secured while I actually had it on. Now, the big thing that Mizuno changed was in reference to that security that I just mentioned, because it's here in the heel. The Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 1, what they did was that the tongue here was built into the actual shoe itself. So it wrapped around your ankle a lot more and felt a little bit more secured around you. However, what Mizuno did with the new Wave Enforce Tour 2 is that they loosened up the tongue, so it's now just the traditional standard. It's free flowing, so it's a little bit more loose here in the ankle. So what I had to do personally, what I've had to tell people at the store that I work at to do if they're trying the shoe, is that you do kind of have to go to the last lace hole here in order to actually make the shoe work for you and get that same tight feeling like the original Wave Enforce Tour 1s had. So that's probably the biggest change that I've noticed overall, and that other people I've talked to that wore the original Wave Enforce Tour 1s actually felt. And that's where you have to be a little bit careful with the shoe, especially before you wear it outside or on the court, because once you do that, you can't return them. And then, of course, because this is the most cushioned and the most heavily supportive shoe, Mizuno was nice enough to give this shoe the 6-month outsole warranty on it. So if you break through this shoe anywhere on here within 6 months of the day you purchase it, you can send these back to Mizuno, get a brand new pair for free under the warranty. But that's enough talking about the shoe just as the shoe itself. Let's actually go to the court and see how it plays. Here we are on the court with Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2s. The biggest thing I noticed right away as soon as I got these on, not only is the cushioning extremely great in these, but it is also, like I said, not very clunky, especially if you're moving up into the court to come up to the net, or if you're being dragged around side by side in that classic baseline rally in the game nowadays, to where you have to change directions and pivot all the time. As you can see, I just did right there. The shoes held up. They let me get over to that ball, even though it was behind me, pretty easily without me having to worry about them slipping off my ankle or causing an issue. Now, with the rest of my time on court, the biggest thing I noticed was just how stable these things were. Like I said, I did personally have to go into the second lace hole in my shoe because I tried playing originally with only the first lace hole, but I was just sliding around inside that thing. Now, though, once I figured out that the first lace hole was not for me, the second one was, everything else worked a lot better. It was very easy to move around in, very good cushioning, and even the just side-to-side movement, I always felt comfortable in the shoe as soon as I got it secured around my ankle. Now, the final thing I will say is that these are going to be pretty durable. I haven't seen any signs of wear or tear in them. I've wore them for a few hours, maybe like 7 or 8, so it's definitely something to try out. Now that we are back from the court with the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2, some final thoughts. I gotta say, overall, I would personally prefer this shoe over the ASICS Gel Resolution 10. Now, I know that is a very hot take. The Resolution line is one that people love so much and ASICS has done so well with. But with the new Resolution 10, with that change up in the inner side of the ankle, as well as the different way it has to fit properly in order for it to actually work for your foot, especially if you're used to the actual Gel Resolution 9. I think the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2 is a better option to go with for me and for more people who are wanting the shoe to be a little bit more performance-wise. The Resolution 10 is great for for comfort and being a little bit more of a durable shoe because it is a little bit more plastic than the Wave Enforce Tour 2 is. However, playability-wise, just from trying both on, I would say I tend to prefer the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2, not only just from the comfort perspective, but also just the playability-wise. So I got about the same level of ability to slide in the shoe as I did the Resolution 10. I don't slide that much, so it wasn't as big of a factor, but there was a gentleman that came into the store that I worked at, and that was his big thing. Like, he loved the Resolution 9s because he knew he could slide. That was all he did. And so when he eventually went to these, I was like, you may want to try these just because they have a very similar outsole to where it's majorly flat. There's just a little bit of difference here, and then you can still have a good traction when you're sliding. So he actually ended up going with these because he said they felt extremely comfortable, especially compared to the 10s. And that's where I think that you'll find a good comparison for these shoes. So if you are wanting to get a pair of the new Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2s, I would be so grateful if you would use the link down below to get them. It is my affiliate link, so I do make a little bit of a commission if you do purchase the shoe with my link. It not only just helps support the channel, but also helps support me so I can actually get a little bit better lighting. As you can see, my face keeps becoming a shadow here and there. So if you do use that link, I would greatly appreciate it, and thank you. But besides that, that's essentially been my review of the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour 2. I think it's a great shoe from Mizuno. I think they did a really nice job, and I think it is a shoe that actually is going to beat out a lot of others. But the actual tongue here that changed from the last version, it's not, I would say, as good as the previous version. It's just a little bit too loose, but you can fix it with that. But that's not a end-all fix for everyone, so that's why I say the shoe is great. There's just a little tweak I would make. So, with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like on it. Comment down below if you got to try the Mizuno Wave Enforce Tour before, or if you have used the Tour 1 and now you're going to try the Tour 2, let me know what you think about it. As well as subscribe to the channel so we can grow this channel. Get the information out there from the people that have it to the people that need it. There's a lot of tennis misinformation in the tennis community, so I took it upon myself to make this channel so we can get rid of that and enjoy the game of tennis we all love so much more without having to worry about injury from our gear. And, as always, take care.